Thank you all very much for attending today. We really appreciate you turning out for this. My name is David Fortis, and they have me sort of running people up and off the stage, mainly because that way I won't talk too long, so it works pretty cleanly that way. I've known Alan ever since Alan showed up as an untenured assistant professor back here in 1990. The amazing thing for all the faculty that are around from that time will remember is we had a department head by the name of Kevin O'Kane, straight out of Boston, and he drove like he was still in Boston. So we generally figured that if you could survive the interview trip and he didn't kill you in a car wreck, then you were going to be great faculty material. And then Alan went on to spend most of his life worrying about cars and safety and all of that other stuff. We have no idea whether it's related to the interview or not. Anyway, what we would like to do today is we said, let's get a couple people up that can talk about Alan and everything he's done. I can remember back in the old days when we first started doing what CAPS has become now. And at one point in time, we said, well, we've got a grad student cubicle, so if you had like two students side by side, would that work for you space-wise? Oh yeah, that's fine. And then they went to a small office, and they went to a bigger office, and then they went to a couple of offices, and then they opened up Shelby and started talking about wings of buildings. And then about every 6 months, they'd go over to the dean and say, well, we're full again. And you were just full 6 months ago. Yeah, we've doubled. And so finally we are at this place right now, which is pretty much predominantly occupied by CAPS. As a blatant plug, I think anybody that wants to tour the facility, please hang around afterwards. There are lots of people that would love to show you what it is now. I think if Alan had been here for another 10 years, we'd be talking about this entire complex over here in Bryce as a cyber or something. More than that. But anyway, like I said, I'm not going to talk much. Instead, what we've done is we've got to identify about 4 or 5 people who are going to come up and say a few words about Alan. The nice thing about it is most of them are not academics. So there is no PowerPoint, there is no this other stuff. It's actually going to be real presentations by people that know how to talk in public. The first one is Dave Brown. Dave Brown came to our department 1993 and just loved the place and has never left since. So I'm going to turn it over to Dave Brown and let Dave make a couple of comments.
I appreciate it. Appreciate y'all being here. I guess the idea is start with the oldest first. It was 91. As opposed to 93. But it's easy to lose a couple, over 25 years, you lose a couple here and there. Alan interviewed me for the job. That was his first mistake. Should have never hired me. I'm not sure if he voted for me or against me, but he couldn't convince the committee not to, so here I am. I always got Alan to talk for me if at all possible because he was very funny. Didn't intend to be funny. Didn't matter. Does he still do that? You have to realize I have not hung with Alan for 15 years. I've been in Wetumpka. You don't need to know where that is. 15 years I've been away from here, so I don't know. But does he still talk? When he starts out his talks, does he still start out with an apology? Oh, okay, so that hasn't changed. Well, maybe there's some other things that haven't changed either. One thing I think has changed, his driving skills are a little bit better now. Maybe from CAPS he's learned a lot of the traffic safety lessons. But back then, it seemed like he considered the state highway his own personal demolition derby. He was coming up every, how often, Regina? Every other week? Has he gone a couple of weeks now without a crash? So he's getting better. He had his problems, like we all do, but he overcame them. One of the main ones that you probably know about is the e-citation. The first version of the e-citation was a total failure, total washing. He came to me and he's, this thing isn't going to work and whatnot. And I said, Alan, it's not that tough, this is yours to lose. And he didn't lose it. E-cite, as you well know, writing about 80,000 tickets a month now using that system. So he overcame that problem, and it's very important that we're not afraid of failure. He's not afraid of failure. He was afraid of it, but he didn't let it overcome him. A number of things were like that. For instance, his fear of flying, which is kind of notorious. He would avoid flying at all expense, but he overcame that. And I'll tell you how. He flew with Brandon Dixon. If you ever flown with Brandon Dixon, you'll see going back to the airlines this piece of cake. There's one, by the way, Rhonda told me I got 5 minutes, so I better go. There is one phobia that he has not been able to beat, and I call it the fluff phobia. FLF. We like acronyms, by the way. The fear of losing funding. Every year about this time, he would go completely. Let me tell you, this facility is a good place for him to be. He would go completely nuts, and we would have to kind of bring him down. We did have a straitjacket in the closet, but we really never had to use that. But I would reason with him and say, look, don't you remember last year at the same time? You were feeling the same way? And the year before that? And the year before that? And the year, this went on for 15 years, you know. And I was talking to Laura and said, well, I guess Alan has finally beat this thing. She said, no. How she does that. No. Even after he gets another job and is no longer responsible for CAPS, he's still worrying. I guess that goes to show you that, you know, after 15 years, you know, certain things are just kind of ingrained. But let me tell you, the reason that you got, a lot of you here are CAPS people, the reason you have your jobs, the reason I have my job, is because he worries about you. And he has continued to worry about you. And he will continue as he goes. And we appreciate it.
Next up, we have Matthew Hudnall. Matthew's been with CAPS since very early days, year 1, year 2, something like that, over 10 years now. The one thing I always remember about Alan back in the very early days with CAPS is, as Dave Brown mentioned, there were lots of times you'd get stumped with something. And so Alan's technique was very simple. Call Matthew. Matthew?
So it's hard following Dave after all of that. So I've known Alan for about 15 years now, and I started out, as Portis was saying, as a graduate student here working for Alan. And over those years, I've really become to admire and respect Alan more and more. He led with this great self-deprecating sense of humor, as Dave was saying, and he was always approachable in that manner. And through these 15 some odd years that I've worked with him, Alan has flown many millions of miles, traveling to meetings and conferences, etc. And I remember our first plane flight together. I was sitting right next to Alan, and all of a sudden he grabs the armrest between us. And this was before he got over his fear of flying. And I didn't really know what to do, because I'm just a graduate student sitting next to him as he has a kung fu grip on the armrest, about to rip it off. So then, casually, as the plane took off, I asked him what was going on, and he began to relay his fear of flying. But what I didn't know until later was that Alan had thoroughly researched that Airbus A320 and knew the safety record of it 100%. And so after that, I always felt safe flying with Alan, because I know that he had researched thoroughly whatever plane that we were on, and if it was good enough for him to fly on, then it was good enough for me. So anyway, I just wanted to say I really do appreciate all the time and effort you put in to mentoring us all, and we're going to be sorely missed. Thank you.
So for the next part, I think we're going to do something that is very unique to retirements at the University of Alabama. There are a number of people that retire from the university system every year. We have lots of little reception for people from across the university will get up and say nice things about them. But one of the things that you never see in those receptions is people from outside the institution coming to speak on things. And our next three speakers are all coming. They've come up from, I think all came up from Montgomery today. Some of them were up here yesterday playing golf and things like that. But they've all traveled distance. These are the sponsors that Alan and CAPS have been working with over the years. And to me, it's a tremendous amount that not only do the people at Alabama respect and admire Alan, and are going to miss him, but that the sponsors he's worked with over the years and has built these relationships care enough to come up and attend this event as well. So we have three of them that we've identified that we're going to be talking to. The first is Maury Mitchell, who is the former director of the Alabama Criminal Justice Information Center. He's now with the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. Lots and lots of acronyms in these next couple of people. I'll let them describe their jobs and their acronyms better than I will, so I'll just simply turn it over to Maury.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you. Alan, great to see you. I'm Maury Mitchell. I work in Montgomery now. Bill Gates once said, "When change is inevitable, you must spot it, embrace it, and find ways to make it work for you." And today we're honoring a man who had the vision to spot change before many of us did. And he became the change maker that others would follow. Today we honor you, Dr. Alan Parrish, for your amazing career at the University of Alabama. Alan, I'm honored today to celebrate with you. You are truly one of my most trusted mentors and friends, and I give you much credit for my professional career and my success. For those of you who don't know, I guess, I was director for the Alabama Criminal Justice Information Center for 12 years. And from the beginning, from the very beginning, my partnership was with Alan and the great team here at the University of Alabama. It was a little bit smaller back then. I think it was right here on the front row, but it was great. And it was a lot of fun. We did some great things together. I guess originally it's CAPS now, but back then it was CARE, and actually I think y'all changed names 3 or 4 times as it progressed in size. But it was always my partner for a very small state agency, but we were involved with technology. What better place to go to than right here with your team? From the earliest moments, and even today, Alan's leadership in this technology operation at the University of Alabama has changed the world. Or at the very least, it has changed the criminal justice system as we know it in Alabama. It is different than anywhere in the world, and I'm so proud of the work that this group has done through his leadership. Prior to taking my position at CJS, I used to work for the Attorney General's office in Montgomery for Bill Pryor. I was one of the prosecutors there, but I did all kinds of stuff, and Bill would give me the opportunity to, a long leash really, to go do anything I wanted to do to help law enforcement. And since I was the nerd, the IT guy, the only person that liked technology, I think, at the time at the Attorney General's office. And remember, this is the early to mid 90s. I started hovering around other people that liked technology. A lot of it was with the courts of Alabama and some other groups. And we were trying to use these things called computers and then this brand new thing called the internet and see what we could come up with. And that's where I got to meet Alan and Dave and Matthew, and I got to tell you, that's been one of the most rewarding parts of my entire life. I got to tell you a story. In 2002, the 4 of us went to Washington, D.C., something called the Search Technology Symposium. The Search is this think tank out in California, and they're involved with trying to take technology and apply it to public safety matters and law enforcement. Unfortunately, they don't do the symposium anymore, but it was a really neat thing, especially early 2000. So, had dozens and dozens of sessions you go to. Y'all been to conferences and you know how these things work. But I went into this with one session, and unbeknownst to me, Matthew was in there. I think Alan was in there, and then Mike Carroll was in there, but we were not even sitting together. And this big room was probably like this, and we heard this person from Nebraska talk, and they had just come out with this way to use the internet. You could sign on to, and then you could suddenly see a mugshot, or you could see someone's court record. It was pretty basic, but that was today. Y'all are probably going, "Oh, we do that easy in our sleep," but back then, nobody was doing it. So I got all pumped up. I walked out, saw Matthew come out the other door. I still remember this, and it was that proverbial idea on a napkin moment, literally. I mean, we did that. We got on this little round table right there in the lobby of the hotel, and we drew out one of our first major projects together, which is now called LETS, the Law Enforcement Tactical System. And I think that's really one of the things that kicked off so much of our innovation and career and all the great things that we've been able to do. But that was an exciting moment. Today, there's over 20,000 officers that use that very system. And we had when we came back to Montgomery, it was in January, and we found an old Windows NT server in the basement of the Supreme Court building that wasn't being used. And literally, we said, let's just see what we can put on that machine, and that's where it started. And Matthew was the brainchild behind a lot of that. But anyway, we could not have pulled off that and all the ongoing stuff had it not been for Alan and the great work, the utilization of the University of Alabama, the team here. And many great things have happened since then. Over the years, Alan's team, and you may have been saying some of this, Dave. I came a little late, I'm sorry. But we worked on brilliant projects for a CGS, and I know we did revenue and public safety and everybody else. Here's my list. We had LETS version 2, LETS 3, ADAPT, Alcop 2, Alcop 3, Alcop Mobile, NCIC Mobile, not to be confused with Mobile NCIC, it's a different program. New, IndySec, eCrash, CAMS, Trace, Connect, Message Center, Pernosco, Prepare, Quick Access, Share, Tech, Ultra, and Push. And those were just a few. Now, all those things that just sound like words right out of the dictionary, y'all know who made all those up. All we had to do was tell Dave what our idea was, and within like 30 minutes there was an acronym. So it was great. And so we could always count on that. Sometimes I'd come up with some crazy idea, and I'd just shoot it by these guys. Within days, weeks, they would come back with an amazing envisionment of what that idea was and say, look, we can do it, here it is. Other times, this is even more my favorite time, is when you guys would come to me and say, what if? And just fill in the blank. Because what if, that's the reason I love so much working at the University of Alabama. Instead, I know we got some police officers in the room, but I love and I dedicate my life to, but if you just keep it in the family, you don't understand what's possible out there. And what I loved about working with the students at UA is they weren't involved with law enforcement. They weren't involved with criminal justice. They weren't involved with we hope, with the DAs, the prosecutors. And so it gave a fresh perspective. And that's why we were able to accomplish so many amazing things through this operation. And I'm convinced of that. Every month for years, my favorite event at work was when we had the monthly CAPS roundtable, or I can't even remember what they call it now, but it's they would come in and we, from like 9 o'clock till 2 in the afternoon, we sit around, we just talk about technology, what we're gonna do next, how things are working, and then of course Alan always provided a great meal. So we always love to eat well, and I appreciate that. And I'll last on this, I know I'm going along, but one of my favorite memories of working with Alan was when he and I and Matthew and Alan's family, we went to Austria together. And we went to present LETS and ADAPT, for y'all that know that one, to the International ACM Symposium for Access Control Models and Technologies. This way they're meeting in Shanghai, by the way. But this is really cool, Innsbruck, Austria. And we were there for 3 days, and we were a presenter. And it was fantastic. there we are with some brilliant minds from all around the world, and we were only one of like 2 groups there, all from the United States. The rest of them were all around the world. And I think we had by far the most impressive presentation. At least I could understand it. The rest of them, oh, man, it was very academic. Alan got it, I think, but I didn't know when he was there. So, there was a few things to go see in Australia, so we might have stepped out occasionally. And of course, we were there. We ate at a restaurant that was older than the United States. It was pretty neat. Anyway, from the CGIS users conferences to traveling all over like we did and have done, working with technology companies, working with law enforcement, Alan has led the way with his innovation and to the astonishment of everyone we talked to. I'm so proud of him and all his innovations and his accomplishments. I look forward to the wonderful things I'm going to hear about at the Naval Academy. Alan is a man of faith, of principle, as y'all know that. I just look up to him so much. He has led such an amazing team of students and colleagues to create a renowned technology think tank and a brilliant factory of innovation here at the University of Alabama. Thank you, Alan, for all you've done.
Thanks very much, Mark. Our next speaker is Major Jack Clark. Jack Clark's also with the Alabama Law Enforcement Association. He is responsible for all the public support services. Jack?
Good afternoon. Maury, thanks. I've got about 30 seconds to talk. Dr. Parrish, it's an honor to be here and speak to your colleagues. I thought that not only were we professional friends, but we were personal friends, but now I realize that it's just because I'm a trooper he was friends with me. So, Dave, it's hard to follow you, but it's kind of like being involved with the legislature. When you get in there and get to know how they work, you kind of wish you had known all that stuff. Anyway, we were able to get here on time. I like the driving comment about Boston because we got Jay and Brenda. We said, just go real fast and we'll turn our blue lights on, and so we got here. I met Dr. Parrish some years ago, and we hit it off quickly with a professional relationship, and it didn't take very long to turn into a personal relationship. One of the things that I admired about Alan is his moral compass and his character were always in the right place. He was huge on his family, and he tried to he did the right thing because it was the right thing to do. I remember as a trooper writing tickets when each site first came out. I was amazed, and I thought, man, whoever came up with this, these people are geniuses. And so when I met Alan and the group at CAPS, I realized my wife was right because she says, Jack, you always think you're right. And so apparently I was on this case. I love going anywhere in this state and some other states and bragging on CAPS and Dr. Parrish. They have put law enforcement in Alabama at the forefront of other states, and there are states that are jealous of the things that we have. And it's nice to be able to share with them. And that's one of the things about Alan and his staff. They're always willing to help other states. And so from a law enforcement standpoint, the work you and your folks have done is absolutely phenomenal. And out of that, I got some good friends out of it, and I appreciate that. It's a huge honor for me to be here, Alan, and wish you well. The Naval Academy is extremely fortunate to have you coming there. I can't wait to see what you do. I think you're leaving us in very capable hands with Dr. Myers. And so I know from a law enforcement perspective, that relationship will continue to grow. And if you ever need anything, I don't know any cops up there, so don't call me. See you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack. Our last speaker for the night, or the afternoon, whatever this is Jay Starling. Jay's with the Alabama Department of Revenue. He's the director of the Motor Vehicle Division. So I'll turn it over to Jay.
Thank you. It's an honor to come and recognize a great career and a great person. I've personally known Alan, Dr. Parrish, some people call him, we just know him as Alan. For over 10 years, our paths crossed when we started working on the commercial vehicle projects along with DOT and DPS and some of the other agencies that were involved in that project. And Alan and Dr. Dave and others were really responsible for getting that program going again and sort of shepherding the project and getting agencies to work with each other again. Up until that point, revenue and maybe DPS and AlDOT weren't really working together that well, if at all. So Alan was able to come in there, and I remember being very impressed with the way that he dealt with the different egos and personalities that were involved in each organization. His laid-back personality and agreeable nature helped us develop trust again with each other. And up until that time, as I said, we didn't work together very well at all. And at that point in time, it sort of kicked off this whole relationship that Alan and CAPS helped develop between the agencies, particularly from a revenue perspective. You know, we're the providers of the data, not necessarily the users of the data. And of course, DOT involved in infrastructure and DPS back then, and now responsible for law enforcement, as well as Office of the Courts and CJIC and several other agencies that were involved. But my direct involvement began with Alan when he invited me to serve on the commercial vehicle enforcement steering committee, as we called it. And it was several agencies that came together as a result of the whole C-Vision program, and we decided we can steer this thing without having 50 people in a room involved. We'll just get some people in a room and we'll sort of steer this thing in the best way that it should go. We were able to accomplish a lot with those steering committees. A lot of different people involved over the years, but Alan was a very big part of sort of keeping that thing going in the right direction. And also at Alan's invitation, we were invited to start attending the TRCC meetings, which again, another acronym, Traffic Records Coordinating Committee. I can't even remember what that stands for. But ADECA, I'll give a shout out to ADECA. They were represented here, and they were so gracious enough to have us attend that. Over the years, the last 10 years, I have seen so many successful projects just out of those two committees. It's amazing. It's both amazing because federally, as Jack said, across the country, FMCSA and NHTSA have both recognized what has been done in Alabama, and they think enough about it to hold Alabama up as sort of the pilot jurisdiction to pattern yourselves after. They've also been so gracious as to provide funding, as Alan likes to see all the funding come in, and so do we. So as a result of us being involved in those committees, Revenue wanted to develop a relationship with CAPS. We finally trusted that CAPS was not going to go away. It wasn't some graduate assistance research lab that was just going to disappear one day. So we executed an agreement, a memorandum of agreement, just like we do with any other state agency, and we started working with CAPS directly on a lot of things. It started off kind of small, and then it snowballed just like everything else, but eventually developed into CAPS actually developing, hosting, supporting, and maintaining most of the motor vehicle division systems. We like to call it sort of an umbrella system, MV-TRIP. It's our motor vehicle title registration and insurance portal. I'm going to go through the list real quick. We all have our list right in the way. So the state registration database, the state plate reservation and ordering system, the state tag pre-commitment system, the motor vehicle inventory management system, the motor vehicle document management system, a scrap system which allows junkyards to report scrap vehicles, Al-Verify, which validates the Alabama driver's license before a vehicle can be registered, our dealer licensing system, our mandatory liability insurance, we're working on an unclaimed abandoned motor vehicle portal, and last but not least, a title system to replace our existing title system. two projects stand out in my mind as probably having the biggest impact on the state. One of them is the online insurance verification system, and the other is another acronym. I think Dave probably came up with this one, but the Department of Revenue Information on Vehicles. We just called it DRIVE. And at the time, this seemed like a very big, huge mountain to climb because it involved trying to get 67 different licensing offices throughout the state. I think it was 7 or 8 different system vendors at the time to all send the Department of Revenue their registration data on a nightly basis. Sounds pretty simple. The law requires that they send it once every 30 days. And we had data entry operators, and we were uploading files, and it wasn't really a good way to do things. Law enforcement didn't have the data they needed on a timely basis. State registration data didn't have its data. So we started this ambitious project to get the data, and we did. Alan helped garner some money, I think, through ADECA to help fund that. And that kind of led into a lot of other things, but it's a very successful project. The other big project was the online insurance verification system, which is probably the first of its kind in the country. Alabama passed a law, and we decided, yeah, we're going to do this thing. And through lots of trial and error, and of course, a lot of input from Matthew, we were able to implement the project, and now it's sort of held up as the pilot project, pilot jurisdiction for other states. In fact, probably reduced our uninsured motorist rate by 10% in just a very short time that it's been in place. So kudos to CAPS for that. Obviously, as I said, Alan's not directly involved in each of these projects. However, being the head guy, the top dog, he is responsible for assembling, developing, and managing the excellent resources of CAPS. Colonel Pullen put it yesterday in our CBD meeting and team building event that Alan is the tip of the spear. We all kind of chuckled. Alan? But it's true. It's really true. Alan, you will be missed, but you've left CAPS in great hands. It's truly been my pleasure to work with you. I wish you all the success in your next chapter of your life. Congratulations, and God bless you.
I'd like to thank Jay and Jack and Maury, as well as the folks from Alabama, Dave and Matthew, for their kind words. At this point in time, if you've ever done a debate, you'll realize at some point in time, after everybody makes their arguments, we now get a chance for a rebuttal. So we're going to turn the stage over to Alan, and he will start off with an apology and
I was making mental notes here as I was going. Let me see if I can remember them all. How many people watched the White House Correspondents' Dinner the other night? What's that guy from Comedy Central? Larry. Yeah, Larry, what's his name? Wilmore. Okay, yeah. How many people thought he was funny? How many people thought he wasn't funny? I'm just curious. There's not a lot of participation. But I was going to suggest that Dave would have been a good replacement. But if you didn't watch it, it wouldn't have been that meaningful. Let's see. I remember a time or two thinking about wanting to leave Maury's at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but I don't remember ever doing it. It was usually like 5:30 or so when we were begging to get back to Tuscaloosa, before bedtime, and we were still hopped up on much discussion and ideas, and so many good memories of that, because there were so much enthusiasm and so much energy associated with what we were doing. back in those days, and I don't think anybody seriously wanted to go home. I do remember a couple times, maybe. Let's see, what else do I remember from that? There were a couple of other things, but I can't remember what they were. There must have been a Jack story in there, but I can't think of anything to say about Jack. Other than I need to introduce you to my daughter right there because you helped her get her tire changed. I like the fact that for this discussion and whatever you want to call what we just did, you know, not too much of it was about me, which oddly enough, I do like that. I mean, part of me is a little narcissistic, and I you know, maybe I'm just a tad thinking, you know, you could have said just something. But part of me says, you know, one of the reasons, the main reason, I shouldn't say one of the reasons, the main reason that I think that we're here is not because of me. You know, as I think Jay just said, I didn't really actually do anything. I just sort of, what'd you say I did? Yeah, I just sort of watched over the place, and I think the talent you see out in the audience, I believe Matthew and Dave actually got more name mentions. I think there actually is a good reason for that because there's a lot of skill in those two and in the rest of CAPS. I know when Matthew sent in his application to be a graduate student, I read it and I was intrigued because it was full of stuff about how he had assembled computers at like age 4. And I thought, you know, if there's somebody that can assemble computers at age 4, we need to have them working at CAPS. And honestly, that was probably the smartest thing I ever did, was say, that might be a person that we can actually use here. But I think the same is true about the rest of you. I know what else. I've got 2 other things. They keep popping into my head and I keep forgetting them. Before I get back to something serious, Brenda, I promised her that I would let her retire first. And I have to apologize to her because I failed in that endeavor. But I did leave you with a building, so, you know, in some sense, you know that things are going to keep going even after I'm gone. And the other thing that popped into my head was people mentioned my fear of flying, which I forgot, but that's another story. There is a cure for that, which I have actually succeeded. I'm now like a Delta Silver Medallion, whatever person. And the cure for that actually is drugs. Just so you know. So if you're struggling with a particular problem, I will say that you know, Brandon's flying was actually pretty good, I thought. So, but drugs really help. I don't have that at all. All right, back to serious. I was being serious a moment ago when I said that you know, the reason that we're here is because of all of you, and that's true for CAPS. That's true for the folks that I've become close to in Montgomery. Many of you who I'm now feel to be close personal friends with, and intend to, you know, hopefully invite you all to my house. We're building a house, and you can come visit. Rhonda asked me to ask the CAPS people to stand. Rhonda, is that what you want me to do? So if you're the CAPS stand. These guys are really the ones who have done all this great work, and as Jay said, I've kind of watched the store, and I've enjoyed doing that, and I'm happy. But I'm happy though to pass that on to Laura, who I know will do a great job. Thanks to all of you for everything that you've done for me. I'm looking forward to doing something clandestine for the Navy. I'm hoping I can get some sort of big top secret clearance and I can go, become some sort of cybersecurity guru or something. But my wife asked me when I took the job if I knew anything about that. Sort of, what do you know about cybersecurity? I really, honestly, I'm not sure why they hired me. But I have been in Matthew's office for the past week getting tutored, so I'm hoping that I can get up there and do a halfway decent job. But I look forward to continuing to visit with y'all and see you in the future and work with you in the future. I know we're going to keep some projects open and going, and I'll be sort of in and out. I'm leaving my son here to be an Alabama student, so I'll have to at the very least come see him. So I look forward to seeing everybody around. And I guess that's all I got. Thank you.
We're going to make you earn your food, folks. Bear with us for a couple more minutes. All right. As is standard with anything, when someone leaves, we give them a box of stuff here. You can tell this is from computer science because it's wrapped so well. We have a box. But no, just for those of you in the back, in case you're curious, there are a couple of books in here because if you ask Alan what he wants in terms of technology, name a gadget Alan doesn't already have. It's practically impossible. These are, the first one is a book called The Capstone. It's University of Alabama. Lots of pictures, very few words, so you should be in good shape with that. There's also from the athletic departments, there's a Crystal Edition book here that instead of just focusing on the academic side, hits all of the academic highlights. There's a signed autographed picture from Saban in there. There's all sorts of other bells and whistles. It's not technology stuff, but hopefully if you have a new house, you can put this on a coffee table somewhere soon when I get back in. Yeah, I'm working with it. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. It's trickier than it looks.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Laura Myers. I'm the new director of CAPS, and I'm representing CAPS in the gifts that we're going to present next. First of all, Alan, this is a plaque commemorating your service. It says, in recognition of distinguished service, Dr. Alan Parrish, Director, 2000 to 2016, Center for Advanced Public Safety, University of Alabama. This is a proclamation from CAPS. It says, we the team members of the Center for Advanced Public Safety at the University of Alabama do hereby proclaim our sincerest appreciation and heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Alan Parrish for his brilliant vision, outstanding leadership, and exceptional dedication as our director from 2000 to 2016. And signed by It's hard to get us all together in one picture. Dr. Cordes mentioned the issue of trying to find technology that you don't already have. So we went for something else. The appreciation of music. Those sound systems
Oh, that's
for
cool.
you. It's all on the heart, because we were like, it was like, we couldn't think of anything that I'd already had.
Yeah, that's a problem. I tend to just
All right, and we have one more gift to give you. And so we're gonna have you sit down and we're gonna readjust and show you. And that concludes the formal part of the retirement reception. So now we're off to food and drink and milling around. There'll be photographers walking around, so we want to get pictures with Alan and several of you, so make sure that you grab Alan for that. Camera people will be out there to grab those pictures. There's also a sign-in book in the back for Alan, so if you didn't sign it on your way in, try to sign it on your way out. And also, as David said, we'd be glad to give you some tours of the building, so as you're milling about and you want to see the building, grab one of us and we'll take you around to show you what it looks like. Thank you so much for coming, and again, another round of applause for Dr. Parrish.